So how do we create a class in PHP? Very simple. All you need to do is say class. Now class will be followed by the name of the class. Customarily, class names start with uppercase. So you say class, which is a keyword, and what follows is the name you choose to assign to the class. After which we'll have the curly bracket. In between the curly bracket is where you specify the properties and the methods you plan to make use of in the class. Fairly simple, eh? In this code, we'll be demonstrating just that. Remember, we start with the keyword class. Now class will be followed by the name you choose to assign to your class. So I want to name this class test. After this would be the curly bracket. So I say the curly bracket. In between the curly bracket, I'll specify my properties and my methods. Fair enough, eh? So what properties do I want to specify for this class test? First off, I will say these properties should be made public. We'll still explain this much later, but just note that I'm about to specify the properties within the class. So public, and then I say first name, and then I would say last name. Now let me ensure that this is a variable, and let me ensure that I had the underscore here. So you notice that first name is more like a variable, same as last name. So what makes them different is the fact that they are specified inside the class, and we are also told that they should be made public. So simply put, first name and last name are properties of this class test. Fair enough. So after this, we can specify a method. So I am going to create a method. Remember, a method is more like a function. In fact, it is actually a function. The only thing that makes us not call it a function is that we are creating it inside of a class. So I am creating this function, say something. Not a function, but actually a method. Now, more like a function, you can supply some parameters within the parenthesis, and this is followed by the curly bracket where you can specify some actions. So what I simply want this method to do is echo what? I love OOP in PHP. Fair enough, easy peasy. So what we have just done here is create a class. Also within the class we specified two properties, and we also created one method that simply echoes I love OOP in PHP. You can create as many methods as you want, but for this tutorial we're going to stick with just one method for now. So this is how simple it is to create a class. Another thing we need to learn is how to create an object. Remember, an object is an instance of a class. So to have access to a class, you pretty much have to create an object. Very simple. All you need to do is say the object name. You can see it's in form of a variable name, but it is not just an ordinary variable because it is assigned to the name of the class. So you simply say the object name. You are the one that will choose the name for the object. Then you say equal to, then you use the new keyword. The new keyword will be followed by the name of the class. So what we are saying here is we can create an object from here. For example, I could create an object, say object equals to, then the new keyword, and then the name of the class. Alright, I'm using object here. I could just name this use underscore class, for example. Let me change this to an underscore. Yeah, so it could be just like this. This is also fair enough. This is more like a variable, but because it is assigned to this class here, this is not just an ordinary variable, it is an object. So this is how easy it is for us to create an object. At this point, we have created an instance of this class. So if I want to access the properties, or I want to access this method here, all I need to do is use this object to access them. So this then gives rise to another question. How can I use the object we just created to access the properties and the methods? Very, very simple. All you need to do is understand the format. For accessing the properties, you simply call the object name. This will follow by the hyphen and then the greater than. So you are pretty much saying this object name, I am pointing it to aha. So I like to think of the hyphen and the greater than as pointing to what. Now you then call or specify or type the property name you have specified within the class. Then you can then say equal to and assign that property a value. This is how easy it is for us to access the property, making use of the object we just created. Now, what if you want to access the method? It's pretty much the same thing, only that you are not assigning, you are calling the method. So you simply say the name of the object followed by an hyphen and the greater than. You are saying this object is pointing to, then you type the method name. Then if there are any arguments you need to supply to the method, you would also do that. All right, enough of talking. So what we are saying here is that to access this property first name, all I simply need to do is say use class, then the hyphen and the greater than. So I'm saying use class should point to first name. Fair enough. Now notice that I am calling this without the dollar symbol. So you don't need to, because you are not calling a variable, you are calling this property. Though inside the class you are going to specify it as a variable, but when you want to access it, you are not going to precede it with the dollar symbol, else you will get an error because this variable does not exist. So we can now say first name equals, then I could just decide to input my first name. So fair enough. I could as well repeat the same process for second name. So we say use class, then hyphen greater than, then we say last name. Fair enough. Equals, then you supply your last name. Is that fair and good? Yeah. So this is how easy it is for us to access our properties using our object. Fair enough. So you might want to take a very good look at this so you wrap your minds around it. Now I want to then access this method. You remember how we have to do it? Very simple. All you need to do is say use class, then the hyphen and the greater than, and then you call the method. So the method in this case is say something. So if there are parameters, we are going to specify them inside this parenthesis. But this method we created here is not requiring any argument. So it is good like this, and that is that for that. So I'm just going to comment this. Here I will say accessing the properties, and here I will say accessing the method. Fair enough. Just so you can get a glimpse or understand what we have just done here. So let us see if this actually works. I will save this and refresh this, and we get a parse error. Where did I make a mistake? Inside the function, I did not add my end of statement. So I'm going to save this and refresh this, and you can see I love OOP in PHP. Why? Because we call the method right here. At this point, we only accessed the properties and we assigned values to first name and last name. We didn't call to print or something. That is why nothing happened. So if we want to test to see if this actually works, we can call this very interesting function called the printr function, because we can use this function to print an object. Yes, we can use this function to print out an instance of a class. So this gives us access to the properties and their values within the class. So if I say print r and I put use class inside as its argument, I don't want to forget my end of statement this time around. Save this and refresh this. You notice that it outputs test object. Then it says first name, which is this right here, and it says it has this value as first name. Then it says last name, which is this right here, and it says it has this value as its last name. So if I should comment this out, for example, let me just comment this out and I say this and refresh this, you notice that first name and last name do not have any value. It only tells us that there is an object test that requires two properties and there are no values associated with it. So this is just a neat little trick to check the values associated with your properties and to check all the properties that are needed within your class. So what we are actually trying to help us understand here is this. This is how you create your class. This is how you create an object, an instance of a class. This is how you access the properties within your class, and this is how you access the methods within your class. And so if I save this one more time and I refresh this, we get this. So it is very simple and fair enough. So oftentimes when you create a class, what you pretty much want to do is call the method or do something to get its properties filled up with values, and do something with the value, call a method to do something with those values, and pretty much do everything you need to do. So this is how simple it is to do object-oriented programming in PHP. I hope this is getting pretty easy. Just try and take a very closer look at it. As you do, you will gradually get the concept. We are still on learning PHP objects. Please join me in the next video as we learn more things we can do to work with objects in PHP.